Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Guidance Corner. My name's Christelle. In this week's discussion, I want to talk about resilience, what it means, how do we know when we're being resilient and when we're being stubborn or we're in the fight, and why understanding resilience can play such a big part in our everyday lives. So let's jump in because resilience is such an interesting topic. I think it's such an interesting topic because at first glance, resilience is not what it seems. And I think that's the way our society, maybe our families, um, even the word itself, resilience, resilience, it makes us feel like we are being resilient when we're in the fight, when we're pushing against something, when we're fighting for something. Resilience can also look like stubbornness. We're digging our heels in. Now, there is nothing wrong with any of those energies, any of those emotions, any of those spaces that we can find ourselves in. But I invite you this week to look at resilience in a different way and just be open to that it might not be what you initially thought. So let's look at this resilience. So I've already explained how most of us, if somebody said the word resilience, what we would conjure up in our minds, what we think it's all about. And like I said, I'm going to invite you to look at a different perspective. So what is that different perspective? It's one that it's almost an opposite energy, if I can be so bold to say that. Resilience is born out of acceptance. It's born out of softness. And that doesn't, even when I was journaling on this, meditating on this, and that sort of came through, and it's a belief I've had for a long time because I've been in an energy of letting go and allowing things to be how they need to be in this point in time. And that's not saying that we give up. In this moment, it's not saying, I feel a little bit down, I'm just going to completely give into it. Sometimes we need to. Sometimes that is an energy that we are being called to embrace, maybe to help us go deeper within ourselves, to access information that we cannot when we're just drifting on the surface. So being down, as terrible as we feel when we're in that energy is priceless in allowing us to come and go deep within ourselves. So I'm not asking that we just give up and give in to these emotions that we can be feeling when we're feeling a bit down, just to throw the covers over our head and say, that's me done, I don't want to know. That's not acceptance. That's almost, what's the word I'm searching for? That's almost denial, not wanting to face it. So we're not embracing it. We're kind of pushing it away or just, a bit la 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 la. I think we've all done that. That image pops into my head so often because I can see so many times in my life where I have literally done that. And I don't want to make light of these emotions and feelings and discussions, but sometimes I think we can get bogged down in this heavy energy when we talk about these things. And I feel from my earlier videos, I felt that these topics deserved a certain amount of seriousness. And so I embraced that, and I left my playful side. I tucked that away, feeling it doesn't have a place here. But I've been shown and I've been drawn to bring it, to bring a sense that we can laugh at ourselves, not in a nasty way, not in a way that belittles what we're going through, and not often or sometimes even ever in the moment. But when we look back, if we have enabled ourselves to look at the situation with honesty, often we can have a little chuckle to ourselves, because there is an element there that once we've passed the situation, we've expanded and grown and evolved from the situation, and we've taken what that situation offers us, we can laugh. And, I laugh at myself, but in a loving way, not in an attack way. And that's beautiful because it releases energy, and it makes us see that energy served. Obviously at the time where I'm blocking my ears going, la, 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 I'm not in an energy where I can work through anything. Sometimes we're so bamboozled by life, it kind of hits us so hard that we can't take it in. We can just almost ride the tide or try to hide from it. And that's okay. But there comes a time when we need to come out of that. And that's the acceptance. That's coming back into the flow. That's allowing ourselves to be and experience who we are right now in this moment, in these situations that we find ourselves in, whether they're good or bad. And so that's resilience. The blocking, the fighting, the putting up the walls, the la 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 is not resilience. That's what comes before resilience. When we are fighting, we're not in an energy of flow. And I will do a discussion on that fighting, that disassociation, that la 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 is that when we disassociate. That was the word I was trying to find earlier. I will do a discussion on those because they're priceless, and they're an energy, they're a moment in time that we can't skip over. We need to go through, because even though those energies are not resilience, it's being in those energies, working through those energies, that brings us to the energy of resilience, which is acceptance of where we are. Resilience is born out of the bendy reed, not the solid oak. So I talk about the bendy reed quite a bit and the solid oak quite a bit. And those two plants, nature, I use them as an analogy because we are neither. Okay, we're human. We have the ability to pick ourselves up and move away from where we find ourselves. Nature doesn't. The bendy reed is planted where it is. The oak is planted where it is. So they have their survival mechanisms The bendy reed has allowed for the wind to come and go, water to wash over it, and it survives by being bendy. The solid oak survives by being strong, very strong. We are neither. We can get up and move, but sometimes we need to sit where we are. And the analogy of the solid oak and the bendy reed enables us to really picture and embrace two very different energies. And sometimes we need to be the solid oak first to understand what's important to us. When we're in a stage of this solid oak, of disassociating, of fighting, we are understanding what is important to us. You know, if a relationship is breaking down and we don't fight for it, we don't dig our heels in and try to hold on to it, with time that will come up into our consciousness and we will realize, I don't want to fight for this. Maybe I do want to let it go. Once we come into that acceptance of, hang on a minute, maybe I do want this relationship to end, as painful as it is, as sad as I'm going to be, maybe it needs to end. We then start to be the bendy reed. And resilience is born out of that because there's an acceptance. Next time we find ourselves in a situation where we're letting things go, it might not impact us so much, especially if we've healed that past moment, that past experience, those emotions that are attached to that past experience. Once we heal that, we don't drag all that back with us when we experience a new experience. We'll experience it with some knowing, some understanding, but not all the baggage that comes from the past experiences. So as usual, I got so sidetracked, but like I said in previous videos, if you've been following me for a time and if you're new, I'll just explain these topics are not standalone, and to give them real meaning, to give real understanding and context, I feel that I need to expand them so that we know what the meanings are. You know, with the solid oak and the bendy reed, I don't want you to think that there's one good and one bad. It's just that we embrace the two at different points, and one can often lead to another. We might not want to stay in one energy too long, but it serves its purpose. So resilience comes from all those steps. So we do start by fighting. We do start by disassociating. We do start by questioning and worrying. And then as we grow with understanding, if we can go deep enough within ourselves, allow what we're feeling to surface, not so that we can act or react to it, not that we can push whatever's coming up in us into the outer world. And that's where emotions, which I will also do a topic on because it's so interesting, our emotions are our gateway to what's deep within us, to what our soul holds within us. But our emotions are for us. And it's not to say we hide them from the world, but we also don't want to push them out onto the world. If we are feeling down, we can talk about it, which is so helpful. But that doesn't mean that if something good's happening to somebody else, we try to squash that, or we think, oh, they're just showing off. I'm feeling so bad and they're telling me about all this good stuff. So it's learning to work with our emotions and work with our environment around us. And that's Very, very important. So that's probably a discussion I'll probably do sooner rather than later. Just our emotions and how they help us, but how we shouldn't push them out onto the world. So sometimes we think that resistance is born from what we do out in the world. So it's that pushing, it's that fighting, it's that standing really rigid, digging our heels in, being stubborn. We think that builds resistance. That builds resilience. And all it does is build resistance. Okay, so we are not becoming more resilient when we are in those energies. We are becoming more resistant. Okay. And it's funny because sometimes when I'm talking, I get the two, like I'll say one instead of saying the other. And I think it's because they're so interwoven. And I believe that in order to access resilience, there is almost a time when we need to be in resistance so we can see what we are resisting. We can see how that feels like. And it's in that letting go of that resistance that we then move into resilience. So, what is resilience? Why is it so important to us? Resilience enables us to know very deep within ourselves, intellectually, emotionally, physically, energetically, that we will be okay. Maybe not right now, but that some time down the track, we will stand up again. So resilience is not born from nothing bad will ever happen to me again. That's not a reality that we live in. And I will pin, probably up here, I will pin the video on contrast, the discussion on contrast that I did, because we live in a world of contrast. So there's the good, the bad, the up, the down, the cold, the hot. So to think that once we become resilient, nothing bad ever happens, or nothing disappointing ever happens, or we are not touched deeply by situations that hurt us, that's not reality. And that's not an aim that we should have. So what is the aim of resilience? The aim of resilience is, like I said earlier, knowing that this too shall pass. Okay, the world is a wheel. It's always turning. We're never stuck in one energy for the rest of our lives. It turns and it changes. And the more resilient, the more in the flow we can be, I feel the quicker that wheel turns. Sometimes, no matter how much we try, and sometimes even the fact that we're trying can slow things down, but sometimes it's just going to take the time that it takes. So as I'm saying that, I'm thinking of the energy of grief. Grief has its own timeline. If you are grieving, my heart goes out to you, and I will do a discussion on grief, because it's something I believe in our society that we don't give enough time to. And grief, as I said, has its own timeline. But even out of grief, resilience is born, because when we are grieving, we don't feel like we'll ever laugh again. We don't feel like we'll ever see the beauty of this world again. But we will. We will. And resilience comes from this deep understanding, even though we might not be able to practice it in the moment. Resilience comes from, I know that this too will pass. I will laugh again. I will see the beauty of the world again. I will have happiness again. That's resilience. Resilience is knowing I'm okay. I will be okay. Maybe not in the now. Maybe I don't feel okay now. But when we are resilient, we know that that energy will come back. That okayness will come back. And I think as well, there's a very big message here about timelines, okay? Don't put a date on it. Don't put, okay, I should be over this in a month. I should be over this in 6 months. It's been 12 months. Why am I not over this? And that's not just in grief. That can be in anger. It can be in disappointment. It can be in every or any emotion that we feel. So no timelines, no setting, I should be over this by now. But every moment that we feel that we can, maybe introducing something that we couldn't do a week ago, a day ago, a month ago. Okay, so there's those little steps forward, because resilience is not born by just sitting in an energy. It's born by sitting in that energy so it can surface and we can understand it. Grief teaches us something about ourselves. I'm not going to go into it too deeply, but just an ongoing story of when I was in the Netherlands with my partner. The relationship ended. Now, with time, I realized it needed to end. But in the moment, I didn't want it to end. There was a lot of grief. There was a lot of pain. But now when I look back at it, it's not painful anymore, though I can accept how painful it was. Because I've been able to heal that, because I've really looked at everything, but it's left me with this energy of, wow, I can love. I can see how resilient I am, how strong I am, not because I fought against it, but because I mean, there was resistance at first, but because I allowed it to find its own flow, not by pretending things weren't happening, or pretending that I was okay, or pretending that the relationship was okay, but by seeing, like opening my eyes and putting aside what I wanted to happen and putting myself in a position where I could see what was happening. And then the process of healing, letting go, understanding could come through. That's built resilience in me, not because there was fear or I've built up walls, but actually in that space, in that healing time, I dismantled my walls. So there's this beautiful energy that we learn things about ourselves in that point in time when we are going through what we are going through. We learn about aspects of ourselves that we might not have fully ever acknowledged or just even thought about. We see our beliefs and our values so very deeply. We come to a greater understanding of our self-worth, and those things are priceless. And resilience comes from understanding that. And, you know, there's been very difficult times since then in different areas of my life. And even though in the moment I might appear weak, or that I'm not striving or forcing or fighting. I'm doing the inner work because I can see that's the way I can allow things to surface. And sometimes we do that with the help of others, talking to others, so we can get a bit of perspective from what we're in. Because sometimes when we're in it, you know, if we're in the bucket of mud, it's hard to see what's out there because we're so in it. So talking to sometimes somebody that can help lift us a little bit so we can see outside this bucket. And sometimes it's a very private, very internal. We're just letting this internal system, our subconscious, our conscious, work together on it, but we're not leaving it in the unconscious. The unconscious is where we don't look at it, we bury it. We're not looking at it. Subconscious is that deeper inner aspect of ourself that once we put it into the subconscious, we know it's there, we don't know what to do with it, we don't understand it, but it'll sit there. That'll then surface to the consciousness in its own time. So again, time. So chasing resilience doesn't work because we can't sit, like, let's say we're going well, things are great. We can't sit in that energy and go, right now I'm going to just work on my resilience. It doesn't work that way. When we are in the depth of situations and challenges, we're like, right, going to build resilience. It doesn't work like that. The mere fact that we're going to chase resilience and try to hold on to it, it will move further away from us because then we're becoming rigid. We're trying to grasp. We're trying to make sense of something maybe in a moment, in a time frame that doesn't make sense. So resilience is born out of a time of softening, gentleness, understanding, acknowledging what we are going through or have been through, and seeing how hurtful that was, or how painful that was, or how aggravating that was. And it's in that understanding, that's how it felt, that situation. But we don't need to carry that, continue carrying that through with us. We can soften into it. We can learn from it. We can gather information from it. So in your life, can you think of a time where resilience came to you, not by giving up or fighting, but by just allowing things to unfold as they need to? And that's not staying in a situation that is not good for you. And it's not fighting back, pushing back, and leaving things just out of anger when maybe there was a situation that you could work through. So it's not that fight or flight. We're not in an energy of survival when we are resilient. We're in an energy of thriving because we understand when we are resilient, we understand that we'll be okay. Maybe not right now, but we will be okay. Can you think of a time where you embraced that energy, and how did it feel? What was the situation? How did you get to that resilience? Did you fight first? Did you deny first? And then when was that tipping point where the acceptance came in? And if you're not quite there yet at the acceptance, can you sit with it a little bit more? Can you look at different perspectives? Can you look at maybe how that situation or person might have been there to help you grow, to help you change in some way. So I will be writing a blog, journaling worksheets I'll do as well. The meditation we'll do as well. And please, if you feel drawn to use those free resources, because sometimes it's in the journaling, sometimes it's a guided meditation, sometimes it's just listening. And these discussions might trigger you, and that's okay. There's something in you that shows that there's something in you that hasn't been brought to the surface. It hasn't been healed. Maybe it's still something that sits with you in a painful way, in an irritating way. You know, sometimes all it takes is a little grain of sand to just irritate us. You know, a little grain of sand in our socks, in our sneakers can just irritate us. And the walking or the rubbing on our feet, it's just there to say, hey, you've got a grain of sand in your shoe. Stop. Let's look at it. Let's get rid of it, in the sense of, for us and our emotions, it's not just a matter of just flinging it out like a grain of sand, but it's looking at it and understanding it and going, well, do I still need this in my life? Am I still growing and working through it? So yes, I do need it still in my life. Sometimes we hold on to these situations or these people, even not in the situation's gone, the person's gone, but we hold on to it because we haven't healed yet. And sometimes that can take years because it surfaces and we bury it. It surfaces and our anger comes out and we might sabotage something in our life. But with time, we'll get there. We'll get there and we'll understand, and then we'll be allowed to leave the situation, the person in the past, and move forward with our future with greater understanding about ourselves. That's resilience. It's not knowing that you can fix the outside world or you can change the outside world so you're no longer triggered. It's knowing that whatever happens out there, in the moment, you might not be fine. And in the moment, you probably won't be fine. But the wheel's always turning, and this too shall pass. So I hope this discussion has been helpful. I hope there's little nuggets of information that you can take with you and apply somehow, somewhere, in different aspects of your life. If you need assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can message me via my website on the Contact Me page, or you can book an appointment. I have one-on-one sessions, and we can just sit together and just see what comes up, work through what comes up. If you've liked this video, I'm trying to grow my channel. I'm trying to reach as many people as I can. So please like, share, and subscribe. That would really help me out. So as always, I wish you a wonderful, wonderful week. Take very good care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next discussion. Bye-bye.